All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to turn off the chat. Thanks everybody for adding, how long you've been with us, and we'll definitely get to answering your questions for today. I see, Janice, you're a little bit confused about setting up Stripe. Um, we'll take a look at that in a second, but definitely the Stripe setup is mostly on Stripe's end. It takes a little while to set up, so you might want to reach out to Stripe if there's some issues like they can't verify your account or something like that. But as far as connecting it with TaxDome, it's really easy. You just have to log in once your account is set up. All right, so let's take a look at some of our questions here. And I'm also going to share my screen because I do want to talk a little bit of about a couple of things that we might not have covered, but I want to make sure they are covered. So give me just a second to set up my screen here. All right, so I want to show you something that right now I'm using an account with an actual payment provider connected so I can truly demonstrate this, okay? This specific demonstration is about how you would pay an invoice on a client's behalf. Maybe, you don't have a machine that can charge, or they didn't give you cash, or whatever the scenario may be. You will want to do this. For example, I'm going to go to billing and look at any of my invoices. I have Acme here. This account, I'm going to open up the invoice section, and I have this invoice for $205, and the client provided me their card information, right? And I am going to process this on their behalf because, number one, they probably can't pay online for whatever reason, right? Or they just happen to be in the office and you want to process this, or whatever the issue may be. You can literally just check mark. Okay, I went to the account, I went to invoice, I check marked that invoice, and once you check it, you'll have this menu that wasn't there before. So I'll do this again. I went to the account itself, I clicked on invoices, I check marked the invoice that I want to pay, and then I'll click on something called Pay Invoice. Okay. When you see this, you will see the invoice that is going to be paid. I'm going to click on Pay, and then you'll have this pop-up in which you can add the card information, or if it's an account information, banking account, you can use that, either or. Remember, you have the choice to give your clients the ability to pay with a card or with banking information. So this is where you literally type in the card information and get the payment to go through. So this is when you want to make the payment on the client's behalf because they provided you their card information. Okay. If you don't have a payment provider set up, then you won't be able to do this because this is strictly when you have a payment provider set up. Okay. So I wanted to demo that because this is something very, very important to understand, and very common, because I have a lot of clients that say we do this on the client's behalf. They give us their banking information and they give us the ability or the power to do this automatic charging whenever they are billed something, right? So this is the way you would do it. So let me take a look at some questions. Is it possible to make the description area um, bigger? Right now, there is not. The settings that when you go on settings and billing, these are pretty much the, aesthetic changes that you can make. But no, unfortunately, you cannot make that area larger. But let me show you something. Let me create an invoice here. So I am assuming this is the description area. Well, this is the note. Let's see. The description area here, this is the one that you're probably talking about. Unfortunately, no, you can't make this bigger. There's no additional options for that. But the note section here at the bottom, you can manipulate a little bit of the text, make it bold, italics, or you can have bullet points if you need to, right? If you need to kind of like emphasize something and bullet, italics, underline. So this might be helpful for you if you need to kind of emphasize something. But yeah, there's no way right now to kind of make that bigger, but good question, maybe good suggestion, right, to have in the future. And let's see, let's keep going with more questions. And how to deal with recurring payment schedule if you need to skip or change a payment in a series. Once that is issued, like once the invoice is issued, before it's paid, you can modify that, but it needs to be issued first, right? Otherwise, you could probably cancel the series, okay? Cancel their recurrence. Say that you've been billing them, you have a 6-month recurrence, and in the 3rd month, something changed. You can cancel their recurrence and make the changes that you need and create another recurrence for the remaining 3 months. Now, if it's auto debited because you have Stripe, meaning that it automatically pulls the money from their account, they're going to have to sign a brand new authorization form that automatically gets generated. You don't have to do anything about that. That will get generated. So that's the only kind of drawback or caveat when it comes to recurrences, that if something needs to completely change, you most likely need to change what's going on. Have you had any of these scenarios come up, Emilio or Katie, that this needs to be modified?
Yeah, so like for instance, they could have agreed upon, let's just say, 12-month recurrences in the bookkeeping, but then in the middle they were like to maybe add more companies to the first agreed. Like you mentioned, Fabiola, if you go into an invoice that is already issued, you scroll down when you can see like the payment schedule. Each payment will have like 3 vertical dots. You can click in those dots and you can change the amount. Like, hey, let's just say that the first 6 were for $100. Then for the remaining 6, you can click in the 3 dots and change it into 200, for instance. But yeah, like you mentioned, if it's auto debit, then a new authorization will be needed.
That's right. Thank you. And this is what we mean, right? There's always like once it's issued, and it's going to be, unpaid, then if you click on edit, you can modify this as you need, and then kind of resend it, right? Send a email again with the invoice that has been modified. And then the rest of the remaining will still send out normally, but maybe it was just this one invoice that needed to be modified. So feel free to, edit individual invoices that are issued, or simply cancel a whole, recurrence. So if you go to recurring invoices, this is where you will see them and you can edit them, cancel them. It's nice to see, and here these can be modified, right, if they're already issued. So the nice thing is that under billing, you'll see these details if you ever need to. All right, so let's skip to another question.
Would you be able to send the KDC account on there an invoice so that I can demo the client side of these?
Yes, let me see. I have.
That way we can do these, these 2 client side ones.
All right, let me log into my other.
Actually, do it if you can do it through this one. That way we can, because you can't send invoices and do any payment type of stuff.
So the global search is up top. Okay, for those of you that have been using this for a while or not, the difference here is that the global search searches everything, and the searches that we have in other sections, like in clients here, it'll strictly search in clients in here, right? But if you search right up at the top, the global search is exactly what that, means. It is global. Um, so if I type in KDC, whoops, you'll see that there's accounts, there's contacts and documents that might come up with the search, the items that I did. All right, so said we wanted to invoice you, right? All right,
Yes.
so let's do, gonna email her, and then I'm just gonna create this invoice. So we have created the invoice. There we go.
And do you mind linking it to the document that is in my folder?
Yeah.
Sorry, I could have finished setting this up, but I was trying to do it very quickly.
No worries. All right, so we have this this document here, and let's see. Let's make this a little bit more visible. All right, so when you already have a document, you can click on these three dots right at the on the right side, and then you're going to click on Edit, and then you can link this invoice that we created to this document, which means that Katie here will not be able to see that document until the invoice is paid. Okay, you can still request a signature as well from this document, and I'm going to hit send here. So we'll have, if we go back to documents, this same document has two things. We're pending a signature and we're pending payment. So they need to be paid off so that the client is able to see. You can do this upon upload as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm uploading here a document, and it's asking me, where do you want to put it? I'm just going to do unsorted for now. And I am going to link to this invoice. Okay, and I'm going to hit upload here. And I am done. So same thing, we did the same thing, but we did it upon upload, okay, that you can link or kind of lock it with an invoice. And you can link this
Wait,
to
Fabiola,
a job.
they're saying that like our photos are kind of in the way.
I just moved our photos.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so again, when I uploaded it to the unsorted folder, or whatever folder you'd like, actually, and you'll see what status. This status will show you exactly what is pending. So this initial folder, we have a signature and a payment pending for the release of this document. And for the release of this document, meaning visibility for the client, they need to pay the invoice before they have access to this document. Okay, so doing this, you can still link it to any job that you have going on. Right now I don't have any, but you can link any job successfully, and that will create a trigger. Remember, the triangles mean that after that's fulfilled, you'll have the ability to move to the next stage. So you can have 100 clients stuck on this stage called invoice slash e-file, right? Because they need to pay before they have visibility on on the actual document that they require. So these are things that we couldn't show you because we didn't have a payment provider linked on the account, but at least you know the exact steps and how this looks like, right? So how this looks like, link an invoice, and you can link um, more invoices, I believe, but at this point we have that one. So again, you select the invoice, click save, and we are good to go. We have these invoices that need to get paid before I give my client access to these documents, right? I don't want them to run away with a free service, right? Because that can potentially happen. We don't want any clients to fall through the cracks. That's why we have these features implemented so that you can highly keep track of everybody.
All right, so let me show you what it looks like on the client side. Let me go ahead and share screen here. So here, as you can see, I'm able to see that there are 2 documents uploaded and that I have an invoice. The documents are locked, so I would have to pay the invoice in whichever button I choose to click. I can click any of these, or I can click a prepayment, and a prepayment is basically making just a partial payment, or I can make a prepayment. I can pay the whole thing. That would have to be it's basically paying and putting credits on my account, and that would have to be applied to an invoice on the firm side. So those are a couple different options. But once I pay the invoice, which I'm not going to pay obviously because I'm not going to put out $1,100 to pay to see a blank form, but the documents would be viewable, and then they would be able to sign the document. If it's a tax return, they'd be able to sign the tax return, so that and you'd be able to you would get paid before they would actually be able to view the document. Then you wouldn't have to worry about them trying to take the information and go put it in somewhere else and file their tax return through, TurboTax for a whole lot less money if that's what they chose, or something else. So this is the best way to make sure that you get paid if you do have to send them an invoice later, or they have not paid their invoice, so that you get paid for the services that you have provided them. When it comes to a partial payment, it would pretty much be the same thing. They would pay towards the invoice. They would put in the amount that they want to pay, and then they would add their payment method. So here I would be able to choose a credit card, or I can do a bank transfer. So they can add their credit card information, or they can select what type of account they have or bank they have. They can basically log into their bank account, depending, as long as there is a connection, and it is I think it's $3 to connect their bank account that way, or they're able to enter their bank details, and if they do that, then it's a verification that they have to do on their side. It's usually a penny or two that gets put into their account, and then they have to they'll get an email from the payment provider, and they will have to verify how much was put in, or the date, something. I don't remember exactly which information they have to verify. So there's 2 different options for them. They can do that. They can do their credit card. They would obviously click save, and then they would be able to click pay. When they come in to pay, whether they're paying just another basically deposit towards their invoice, or they're paying the remainder of their invoice, they would come in and do the exact same thing. So they would come in, they would click pay invoice, they would put in the amount that they want to pay, or the remainder would populate, and they would follow the same process.
Yeah, it'll keep showing up as, like, right now she gives a $500 payment. It'll show that she still owes 600, and maybe she wants to use a different card for that. So she'll do 300 on a different card, and then it'll show now that she has $300 left, right, of outstanding bills, and then she can use maybe a back debit for the remaining 300. So partial payments are nice if the client has different ways of paying what they owe, and they can do it.
Or if they need to pay over time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And the document will not unlock until that payment is made in full, or unless you manually unlock it for them. So they will not be able to access those documents until you have been paid.
Right. If you request a signature, they'll be able to see it in the signature, right? But they can't modify anything or
Nope. They will
at
not
all.
be able to access the document at all until the invoice has been paid.
And then the signature will be required.
And then, yes, correct. So once they're able to access the document, then they can sign it and or approve it, whatever you're requesting from them, and they will be able to move forward with that process.
Right. So this is awaiting payment. Yeah, I linked both of those documents. So we got to pay those out first in order to get visibility on that document. So it's locked in. It's locked in. It's just like the system will not let them in. It's somebody asks like, where does it go? It's just it is the system. How it is built out. It is very, very secure. So it simply blocks out the access temporarily, right? Until that is paid out.
Yeah, as soon as the payment has gone through our system, so as soon as they click pay invoice and pay the invoice on our side, the document is unlocked. So it doesn't matter or if they're doing a credit card. If they're doing a bank payment, it does wait until it has processed to make sure that you are getting your actual payment before the documents will unlock. So you would have to unlock it manually if you want to provide them access before that final authorization has come through. And there was another question that just disappeared on me. Sorry about that. Do you see any other questions?
Yeah, is it instant view when the client makes a payment, or will it take a day or two? Yeah, it's instant. Right when they pay, that document's going to be available to them. So it's not like it takes.
Unless it's a bank payment, it will take.
Yeah, the authorization
until
kind of
it processes.
yeah.
Correct.
So sometimes the authorizations is like, we want to make sure that the account is valid, and as long as the payment goes through, as long as that invoice changes to paid, that's when it's like instant access. So to answer your questions, it is instant once they pay, but will the payment go through immediately? We don't know. Depends on, hopefully they have money in their account. Hopefully their verification goes through if it's like debits, bank debits.
So the other question is there a processing fee for clients to pay with their debit card? Anything that has a credit card logo on it, MasterCard, Visa, those are considered credit cards. So yes, there is a processing fee for each of those. And then there is a processing fee for bank transfers also. You will have to check out Stripe or CPA charge to see exactly what those fees are.
Yeah, and they may differ depending on the state or the country that you are in. So that's something that you want to verify specifically with the provider that of your choosing, right? So remember, right now we only have two providers. It is Stripe and CPA charge. If you don't want to use any of those, you can do offline payments because you might be using an outside source. But we will soon have a third payment provider. It's in beta. It's, we're improving it. We're doing a lot of changes to it, but look out for that coming up soon. I don't have a specific date, ETA date. I don't want to give false promises out there, but there will be something else coming out soon that is a bit more flexible, more, um, you know, choices that you have as far as settings goes that is directly adheres to the payment, the TaxDome invoices that are you have more ability to tweak the settings, so watch out for that.
Um, for Canadian banks, I am not sure if we have access to them to log in. If you go to pay invoice and add payment methods, you can try searching for the bank. If it's not in here, then they would have to do the enter bank details manually, and that would be where they have to actually verify how much was in their account. How much the payment provider deposited into their account.
Thank you. Let's move on. I think I saw a question here. Will auto scheduling for chat messages be coming? That's a good question. We don't have scheduling just yet for chat. And that's a good kind of like suggestion to have. We'll definitely bring that up to our developers, because we do have scheduling for emails, right? You can schedule an email, you could schedule an invoice to be sent out on a specific date and time. So yeah, but for now we don't have that ability. So sorry about that. All right. So the communication, some of you might not have this available, but the communication should be gathering everything. And like they mentioned before, will we have the ability to schedule? Right now, we don't have that scheduling button, but we might have that in the future. And what's coming soon is that in this section here, we'll have
Sorry.
our emails as well be categorized, kind of like how you see it in your inbox. Because a lot of users think that Inbox Plus serves as an email, but when you add the plus, it's much more than an inbox. It's not really it doesn't really function as an inbox per se. Like, you can't read an email in here. It's just a notification center, right? So yeah, you will get notified if you there's an email exchange, but you also get notified if something happens or fails, or a job is created, if a signature is done, if you're mentioned um, if you're mentioned by your team somewhere, maybe on a job, on a task. There's so much that you can do here. I'd always suggest for you to archive this, because you always have archive for me. Maybe I don't want to see all of this, or archive for everyone, meaning archive this for the whole team, right? Maybe for me, I want to archive it for me because I know all of this is good to go, and you can come back to, whoops. So in the archive section, it's just a nice way to, you can't delete it. It's just a nice way to have everything that has ever happened within TaxDome neatly organized. Like, when did my client sign this, right? You'll have a timestamp in there when it happened, how you can manage that is by filters, right? If you want to know last year when a client did something, then you would go to Inbox Plus. Oh, why is this happening?
In the meantime, Fabiola, as a workaround for the person that was asking for the scheduling of the chats, something that I like to tell my clients is that you can build pipelines for communications. So you can create pipelines where you will add a job recurrence that will trigger in a specific date. So a job will be, generated on a specific date that you want, like, hey, you need to do your quarterly payments. So on the chat, you can put like a template that will put a custom field with the quarterly payments, and it will go, into your client in a specific date. So it's something that you can do.
Yeah, thank you. For some reason, something glitchy is going on with the inbox. Maybe it's my cache and cookies that I need to reset. If you ever have any of those issues, clear the cache and the cookies. By the way, that resolves usually issues. But if not, use our help support, our chat support if there's any issues. But right now, I think something might be going on there. So what he's talking about is, scheduling something out in the future. So this is like scheduled chat and minder chat, right? Maybe you want to have just this one, chat go out to somebody. And let's say, where's our chat? Send message. And then you'll choose something to go out. And I want it to be coming from me because I am the person, whoever is assigned to this. And I want to create a new thread rather than continue a chat that was already open. I'm going to hit save. And this can be anything like, happy holidays or something like that, or a reminder about something. It can be a chat, it can be an email, but right now we're talking about chats because we don't have a way to schedule. So I'm going to create this pipeline. This pipeline has just one. It's called scheduled chat. It just has one, right? So how would you go about this? You would go to workflow, job recurrence, and if you want this to happen, I'm going to choose a couple of clients here. This is where you can schedule that, right? If it needs to happen once a year, then you can do that. And I'm going to say I'm going to start it on June 17th or today, it doesn't matter. But you can choose, what day. Let's see, I want to do, let's say for our Canadian firm there, I think around the 10th, I believe is Thanksgiving, right? And you want to send just a one-off message, and I want it to end probably next year, right? There we go. And it's just once a year, every October 10th, I'm going to send the specific chat. I'm going to use this job template to autofill the job form, and it's going to automatically send that on my behalf. So if I create that, I'll choose a pipeline, and my pipeline is called scheduled chat. Oops, I said the 10th, October 10th, next year. I'll make it in a couple of years. So it's October 10th, right? There we go. So you'll have these in here that are scheduled, and nothing's happening at this moment, but I know that on the 10th, they'll go through that pipeline and they'll receive that chat. Okay, so that's something that you can do, like scheduling an email to go out on a certain day in the future. You can do one-offs, right? The recurrences every year for a year or two or just once. So job recurrence can be helpful for you to kind of send out these special things in the future. So hopefully this helps out whoever asked that question about the chat. You can schedule something out. And let's see, any questions that are related to this? Let's take a look. Yes, it is also called a message. So when you do that in your pipeline and you're pretty much, adding automations, I'm going to click on edit, add automation, and it's not called chat in here. It is send message. And this is your chat messages. Yeah, so it is message here. I know we call it, chat because that's how we globally know it in the world, but in here, just look for it as message. So good questions. Oh, I wasn't showing this. So again, you're going to click on edit automation, add automation. And if in your brain you're looking at like, where's the chat? Where's the chat? It's actually called send message. Okay, this is where you can see all of your templates that you have ever created. And remember, all of your templates are in firm templates. That's where you will find, if you want to sit here and create a template for a message, then this is where you would create it. You can automatically attach documents as well. So this section is a little bit underrated. You're going to be here, for a while when you're setting stuff up. So even if you've been here for many, many years, you know that you're going to have to come back here eventually when you create a new service, when you want to regenerate some of the verbiage that goes out to the clients, right? Whether it's client facing statuses that you create or, emails that you send out to your client, you probably need to update these, maybe that thank you email needs to be updated. Maybe you want them to give you a Google review and you want to modify this. Maybe there's some dates on here that are outdated. This section from templates is always going to be your go-to for modifying these items, right? All right, let's see. Let's take more questions on here.
Why are they called different things? Can we call them either chats or messages? And yes, you can call them whichever one you want.
Yeah, you can call them. It's just the only thing that in the automation right now we have chats here. We want to make the difference between chats and SMS messages, right? Because they are different. The chat is internal to the app, and SMS uses Twilio as an outside vendor to send information. But when you modify this in the pipeline, right? That is called a message. So add automation, send message, right? I guess that's the only thing that I want to point out, that when you create an automation, it's just called message within here. All right. So if there's no more questions about this, I'm going to show you something that we haven't covered, and it's a really neat thing to understand and to know, is that when you require documents, sometimes you might require documents from somebody, from a third party. For example, maybe you might require a document from an attorney or from somebody that's not in TaxDome, right? And you want to provide this link to somebody. So for example, in this 2024 folder, I would like, somebody to upload something to this specific folder. So I'm going to click on request files. And in this message, I'm going to add upload, documents, whatever that document might be. I don't want to send this via email because I just want to generate this link. So if I copy this link, I hit copy, I'm going to open up a new tab. And this is what your client would see. So this link, you can email it to somebody and it'll have the information that you had. Maybe you want more thorough instructions on there, but this is what they would see. They would see your logo, and this is a very secure link in which they can choose to upload something on. Okay. So this is ideal if you want to give somebody access to upload something. They can't see anything. They can't see what folder they're uploading to. It's just like, give me the files that I need, right? Again, this is nice to have for providing this link. Yeah, maybe to your client. Maybe this is easier. They don't have to log in or anything, but maybe your client needs to provide this to somebody else, right? So this is called file requests. Notice that at the top here we have submenus or subtabs. I'm sorry. If you click on file requests, this is the hyperlink that I just created. If I click on the three dots, I can revoke this. If I revoke this, then that is no longer a valid link. So if they try to open it, it's not going to be functional anymore, right? This file request has been closed or deleted. So this is really nice to know and use with your clients. Some of you might not have not known that this exists. So really nice to share this and to make sure that you have even a better ability on how to, grab documents from your client or from somebody outside of TaxDome.
I saw a question, Fabiola, that I really loved because I have a great story to tell. And let me read the question. So it says, can you use the scheduled chat to send out your yearly ready to get a job started? Hope that makes sense. So I have a firm who did a really awesome thing in the first stage. So basically what they did is they will put an automatic message that the template says, click on the client task when you're ready to start. So they will send those job recurrences, like, I don't know, from January or February, whenever you want. And the client will know, like, you know what, when I'm ready to start, I will click on the client task and that will move the job into the next stage, and they will receive either the organizer or the engagement. But it's basically just telling you, like, hey, when you're ready, just click here. And I thought that was a very creative and interesting way to do it.
Thank you. Are you talking about the chat?
Yeah. So basically, they created a template with a client task, and the client task said, click here when you're ready to start. And the client
Okay.
will receive that. And once they were ready to start, they will click it and it will auto move to the next stage. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, let's create it really quick because it's easy. Right? Are you ready? Right? Are you ready to start? So this would mean that you would turn on the client tasks. So your client would actually have to check mark this, and that will trigger a move to the next stage. Believe it or not, we can make that chat be a trigger. So this is where you would add that information. If I've, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what your client meant. Whenever, the message was like, whenever you're ready, check mark this little box, and then you'll move to the next stage.
Exactly. And they will, like we did before, set up the job recurrences. So they will send this automatically to everybody on January 15th something. And once everybody's ready, they will click like, hey, I'm ready to start.
All right. I think I was redundant there, but it's okay. I just want to do a sample here. All right. So in the pipeline, in here, right, we would choose ready. That's the one that I am sending. And the next stage would actually be like, probably that organizer, right? Probably do the,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so let me toggle this on. Organizer. All right. So what did we do here? We created the first stage to send a chat that says, hi client, whenever you're ready, check mark this guy out and we'll move to the next stage, right? And when they moved, it might be a month from now. They're not ready right now. They might be ready in 2 months, and in 2 months they'll see that that they have this pending, and you can add a client facing status on here that kind of like we could do planned and say the same thing. Go to your chat and check mark when you are ready. Whoops, ready to start. That's a really good idea to have if you want this to move forward when your client is ready. Usually, as a standard, you want them to sign an engagement letter. And that can be it. You know, the engagement letter can be in here, but this kind of allows movement forward when the client is ready. So that's a really good kind of tip if somebody wants to maybe experiment, you know, next year with something like this. You may be able to do that. So what this would do is create that trigger in here. So if I add a job here, like with Katie, and I hit move, right? You'll see that this chat now has this little triangles, which means whenever this task is done by the client, then they'll move forward, right? So let's take a look at how this looks like for the client. We'll click on info and we'll log into their account as view only, just to see how this looks like. All right, so we have a pending task, and you can see the chat here, right? So either one, you can open it. Let's open the chat here, how this looks like. So this is how this looks like for the client, and they'd have to check mark in here whenever they are ready. I can't do it for her because the client needs to do it. Mine is view only. So if the client check marks this, at the moment that this is checked, it will move to the next stage. Okay. So
You can check it also.
yes, I can. If I open up the, this is being buggy.
You can check it from the firm side.
Yes. Sorry, it's just I wasn't logged in correctly. So I can check it on her behalf, but I just can't do it on the view only. If I go to communication, and if I go to the are you ready, I can click on this on the client's behalf, but I don't want to do that because the point here is for the client to do it, right? But let's pretend like the client did do this, right? And we'll go back here to the pipeline. Let's reload this. The reason why I got that error is because I was logged into the view only. So I checked that for her and it moved to the next stage. So that's something that before we had like client requests or, you know, the ability to upload stuff to somewhere. This was a very, very commonly used feature to have a client check mark something for a move to the next stage, right? So the only difference here is that it looks a little bit different on the actual phone app. So that phone app, you have to look for the task tab. So it's a little bit harder to see on the phone, but it's still there. And because you have these instructions here, then they should be able to quickly find that. All right. So yeah, good. That's an amazing tip. Thanks, Emilio. And we showcased it really quick because it's good to know that you can do this. You can add many tasks, and they all need to be fulfilled, by the way, by the client in order for that move to the next stage to happen. So if you have 1 or 20, they all need to be check marked for that move to happen.
Can you show again how to send a link for people to upload documents?
Oh yeah, of course. So you want to open up any account, okay? You go to Docs and you choose which folder that needs to be uploaded to, okay? So you can do it with any of the folders. And let's say I want it to be this 2025 folder. You just click on the 3 dots, right? Wherever you are, you can just do the 3 dots. You can even do it for a private folder. Again, whoever doesn't have access to view the folder, what they have access is just to upload information to, right? So this is, please upload the needed information, and then you can give them a list of whatever they need. I don't want to request this via email because I'm just trying to generate. If you do the email, it'll notify the client. So right now I'm just trying to generate this link. So one more time, any folder, 3 dots, request files, okay? And you copy the link and then you'll paste it. When you paste that link, you'll see the information that you're asking for. You'll see your logo, and your client or whoever can upload whatever information on here. They can drag and drop files on here. They could do multiple. Okay, it doesn't have to be just one. So it's a really neat feature that I absolutely love, because sometimes you do need this stuff from somebody else, or somebody, your client, maybe you're doing a tax return or bookkeeping for a client with an admin person, and that admin person has more team members that need to upload stuff to, and you don't really want to give 5 people access to the account. You can let them know, hey, let me give you a link and you upload all of these statements for this month, and this can be a permanent kind of link for them, right, until you revoke it. So hope that was easy enough to do. So soon we'll have also, by the way, permissions to access folders. You can have certain team members access certain folders, or maybe you don't want the wife or husband to access that folder. You can do, no, I don't want that person to access this folder. I want this person to be able to edit and upload to this folder. In my team, I want them to be able to have no access. So, and then you'll hit save and you'll have this little logo on here. This is not fully released yet. I just want to show you kind of like what is upcoming as well. This is called granular access, right? And granular access is going to be really, really nice, especially for keeping certain documents private, not only from your team, but from clients as well. Maybe certain clients don't need to see all documents, or maybe they do, only the owner or not. You might have that granular access that you need. So that's going to be coming soon enough. We're still kind of working out the kinks on that, but this is going to be also something very, very good. But I just mainly wanted to show you something that's available now, which is for sure that request files. It's been there for a while, so if you haven't used it, make sure you use it. All right, let's take a look at this question. We get bottlenecked and delayed in organizer stage. Any recommendations on how to avoid the missing client due to delay of organizer completion? Katie, what do you think about that, and Emilio? Because I think you might have more to say about your experience with what happens here.
Auto reminders are great. If the auto reminders have finished, you can always send out a message, stating like, we need your organizer to be completed before we can move on with your tax return. It also helps if you send out a message before, or when the organizer sends saying, hey, we're sending you an organizer, we need this filled out to be able to prepare your tax return, or bookkeeping, or whatever you're trying to do. So, letting them know like the importance of having that organizer completed can help a lot in getting it completed. Also, having it set for pre-fill, if you're using the same organizer year after year, can help. Make so that they're not having to retype in the same answers every year. So they don't have to retype in their name or social security number. They don't have to, reselect everything if it's all the same. Some of those things can help move the process along faster. And you're always going to have the people who are not going to do them. No matter how hard you try, they're just not going to. You can fill them out for them. You can just bypass that stage. but you know, letting them know how important it is. You know, some of them you might have to talk to them on the phone and guide them through it. Some of them, you know, the answers to, they'll upload all their documents and you just have to fill it out yourself, or you just, again, you just move past that stage manually.
Yeah, you might have that handful of clients that just, are not responding. Number two, they just, they're that one client that every year they're just not the ones. You can tag that account. Um, and, maybe that account shouldn't be going through the organizer stage, or they may be skipping that stage. So, but I understand. I think definitely that is a bottleneck because not everybody's going to be filling it out. Now, if you are, this is, it's your first year with TaxDome, it's not, you've never had an organizer be filled out. You want them to fill it out and let them know, hey, we're moving to a new portal. You'll have an organizer. Please fill it out from scratch, just so that year after year, it'll autofill for you. And just rule of thumb, when you do send an organizer like this year, and the hassle of filling it, you know, from zero is, is a little bit annoying because your client's like, you already have my stuff, right? But I don't know if you moved to a new address. I don't know if you had a child. Did you get married, right? I mean, did you get a new job? So all of those things are critical to have and to know. Um, but let them know that, as long as they fill it out this year fully, next year that will be auto-filled for them. So you as a firm just have to make sure that next year you send the exact same template, which you can modify questions on it, not a problem, but make sure you send the exact same template next year so that when your client receives it, they'll have this option that says autofill. Like, it'll tell them, hey, you filled this out last year. Do you want to use these answers to fill out this form? They'll say yes, and everything will beautifully autofill for them. And all they have to do is update anything that has changed and submit the organizer. So those are tips that we can provide you.
And
That's a good question.
also, like certain things that I have noticed from my firms is that obviously, like Katie mentioned, reminders is your best friend. Obviously, you don't want to be too much reminder. You don't want to be too pushy. That's one. Also, a lot of firms that I have seen have created different stages. So the first one will be like the bare minimum that you require. So you will keep them engaged, like, hey, you can put this information. Then they will receive another one for the income deductions and all of that jazz. That is something that you could do, like do baby steps for them. And the last one that I have seen is that if you create one big organizer, you can just make the certain questions like, I need this to start, make them required. The other ones you can leave it blank, and they can submit the organizer that will make it move it to the next stage. But then when you realize that you're still missing information that you cannot move on, then you will need to stop that job. You can use the custom job status that we used, put it in missing info, and send them a chat or something like, hey, you need to fill this out because we cannot start. Obviously, you need to set up a threshold like, hey, we will do this until this. And if they don't give those the pending information, we will not continue. This is totally up to you. And you know what? And lastly, one automation that is very cool is that whenever you send the organizer in that stage, you can create a template of an email or a chat telling them how to fill out an organizer. If they are new, you can create a new email or chat. Hey, this is how you fill it, because sometimes they feel a little bit intimidated, feel like moving into the portal could be a little bit daunting. So you can create an automation to make them easier. So just my 2 cents about this topic, because it is a very in-depth topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's definitely, more on the users and on your clients themselves, on getting through and having the time to do what they need to do. But they need to do it eventually, right? Because taxes are taxes every year, so they have to do it eventually for sure. Um, but again, you can only do so much as well. Do as much modifications on your pipeline, send these custom messages. But again, if your client doesn't log into the portal or, is busy until the day before, April 15th, that happens. And you might, I had a client that said, I automatically file extensions for everybody because half of my clients will tell me, hey, I need an extension the day before. So that's, I thought that was really good preventative measures for clients that to automatically file some extensions. Because we all know that not everybody's going to be on top of their game. And as much as we implement TaxDome and these amazing technologies, the user end, has to do a lot with their response. And it's not your fault if you get stuck there. But you can do as much as you can. But sometimes it's not your fault as a firm, really. All right, somebody asked a question about plus ones and how that works. If you've never heard of that, for example, here, if Homer here is the only one and with husband and wife that has an email. You can say Homer +1 at test.com. Usually this works great with Gmails. We don't know if this is available for Hotmail or Yahoo or anything like that. From our testing, it hasn't worked, but the +1 works as it is the same inbox. It's just fooling TaxDome into thinking it's a brand new email, so that you can kind of use that as a second email for that person to be able to log in, that second person. I only recommend that when it's, if you yourself are tech savvy and the person understands how this works. But, I'd rather you be able to provide um, an email for that business partner or for that spouse so they can be able to log in and do a signature. Although, even if that doesn't is not something available, that you can always do a third party signature request, which means, and let me show you what I mean by that. So one of these, I'm going to ask for, I'm going to request a signature, but I'm going to put it in. Let's put it in this. I'm going to move this here, move. All right. So if I request a signature, you'll see something called add signer. Okay, add signer. And this is where you can add, a temporary email for somebody else to sign. If it's like the husband or whatever, and if they don't have an email. So this is like a nice workaround. It needs to be a different email for sure. You can potentially use a +1 here, but maybe it's an email that they do have access to just for today, then they can do it this way. And it's always going to be available to you here. It says add signer. Okay. Again, maybe you only have the wife or the husband and the spouse doesn't have an email, then you would add signer and add their information on here just so they could do this one-off signature for this specific document because it's required for joint, for a joint, return. Hopefully that answers your question about the +1. Again, I don't suggest it because it can get complex, but mainly it does work for Gmail. I have seen it failed for other providers. So Gmail works with the +1. Don't use it if you don't need it. It can become a headache. But sometimes I see somebody said that +1 should work for every email. We use +1 plus +1 and it works well. Perfect. If it works well for you, great. For some reason, sometimes this might not work for everybody, but I can guarantee that Gmail is like awesome. And they have this definitely very, very functional. Is there a way to have a primary contact person in the account? Well, if I understand this correctly, are you meaning like a priority person? Because you can always add a quick description for your team, um, and say this is the main person, or this is the wife, right? Or this is the business owner, things like this. That's a little description that you can add. Your clients cannot see any of this, okay? It's just for you and your team. Now, if this is the only person that should be able to be logging in, you can turn these login toggles and notify off. Otherwise, we have a signer priority. If you click on that, you can move the priority of the person. Maybe Cleo here is supposed to be the number one signer in any documentation, then we would move them as a priority when that comes through. Otherwise, main contacts, like, you can have just one contact be the main one, and you can have many, many contacts here that don't really have to log into the account, if that makes sense. But right now we have two contacts, and both of them can log in, and both of them will get notified. So there's no way to say only Cleo is the main one. If I turn off the notify, then yes, Cleo is going to be the only one notified and emailed about anything that is required. Okay. The other person can log in and see everything that's going on, but they won't get notifications via email. That's the difference. All right. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you show how to set up checklists?
Checklists. Let's see. Where are we? I think it was under docs. There we go.
It's under documents.
If you have this available to you, you can click on checklists and you can add, and I'm going to click on edit checklist because I had already started this, and you can add items on here that you require from your client, right? And add a description. Please upload I don't think this is fully released, but right now, this is how you can edit this, and you can add documents if you need to. If somebody needs to have a reference document, and this is it. This will be visible under the client's end, and I believe you can add this to your chats as well, if there's any of these requirements that are needed, right? Let me see if I can add that to a chat here, because so far I've only seen it in this section. Let's see. Where's my communication? Oh, it's not on here, is it? I thought I saw it on here. Again, since this is kind of a really, really new feature, right now it's only going to be visible through there, but I thought we can add it on here. Did you see the ability to add it on here, Katie, on the chats?
No, I'm not.
No. Yeah, I think right now we only have it available under the documents section.
I know that it since it's brand new and I think it's still in beta,
Yeah.
it will be connected to organizers once it's fully released.
That's right. Yeah, that's where I saw it. I thought it was in chats. Potentially in chats, you might be able to find it as well, because, it's nice to give somebody a list of items that will be required. And it's not kind of like, um, a mandatory thing that they need to finish it now. They could take their time and at least they have a list of what will be required. So we'll soon later on integrate it a little bit more and show you how its efficiency. But right now, since it's not fully implemented, I can't show you more. But at least you know that this is going to be something possible, and you can add, different lists to different services. A monthly list of items that you will need for bookkeeping from clients for payrolling, right? You probably just want to give them a reminder list of all of the things that they could possibly want to provide you, right? So this is going to be really nice to be utilizing in the future. Really awesome feature. Again, recently added, and you probably might not have this available to you.
Can you show how the checklists look on the client side?
Sure. Can you, well, let me see if I can see it on info. Let's see if we could see it on here. There it is. So we can see, again, up at the top is always going to be jobs, right? Jobs that are with a certain status. Notice that this is one job, this is a different job, and this is the list. And I'm going to hit a complete list. And it's like I didn't fill it out fully, but this is how it looks like for the client. So they would click on this and have the ability to upload the documents that I am requiring on this list. So again, on the client side, this is what they would see. Document checklist. And yes, this would go to, once they upload them, they're going to be available under the document section. So right in here, as soon as you have a list available, this is how it's going to look like. Let me go back.
We do not have timelines for releases for anything that's in beta. So just want to put that out there. So it all depends on when they finalize everything, making sure that it's working the way they want it to work and it has all the features that they want it to have before it is released to everybody.
Yeah, and somebody asked, can we send a message with the checklist? I just checked that. So, and since my account here is beta, we are not able to. We can add the client tasks. The tasks, as before I mentioned, it's not like you can upload something to the task. You can upload something to the checklist, but this is kind of the same. It's similar. I mean, you can send sent W2. This is like, if once you send it, check mark this guy, right? This is useful for their own reference that they did do something. And if you have this message in a pipeline that you want to trigger a move to the next stage. So let's say once my client check marks this, then I want it to move to the next stage. But it doesn't mean that they really sent it. They might have not attached it to the chat. They just check marked it. So it's kind of like, sometimes it's a hit or miss because they might just check mark it and then not send anything via chat. The checklists now are different because you will see when something is uploaded, right? That will be clearly visible in the list. We'll have more use cases once it's fully released, so we give you more visibility on how that is. But again, always check the what's new section for new releases, new features, because that's when you will fully know when something is available to you, right? I always suggest to check that every time that you get a chance. Every month or so, there's always going to be, something new to look forward to. Where does it go? And when you upload something, it'll go to the documents, section. And I can't tell you now. Maybe I should send one to you, Katie, so we could test that out. Let's see.
Do you know about the tax summary, or should I show that?
Oh yeah, if you want to show that, go ahead.
Okay, so let me go ahead and give you a quick look at that one. Again, this I think is still in beta. So if you don't see it, that would be why. So I've uploaded just a blank 1040. You can go, when you're viewing it, you can go to these three dots, my magical, know it all, every three dots. Click a show summary. And you can add your tax return summary. So if you click add return summary, you can add payments due, how much their estimated payments should be, the penalties they have to pay, if they're getting a refund or overpayments applied. So if they have payments due, you can click payments due, and you can put it whether it's a federal and what states. So if they'll, many different states, you can add this section however many times is necessary. So if they owe federal, you can put that they owe, 150 federal or however much they owe and what the due date is. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be, April 15th this year. Some stuff was different because of natural disasters. So depending on what state they lived in, those dates are a little bit different. So you'd be able to put in the date, and you'd be able to put in a comment saying like, hey, make sure you pay this. You can, you can put in the website that they would need to go and pay. And then if you click save, it's going to show up here on the side. So you can add any of those features or any of those categories, and they'll have a list of everything here that is due. When they go to their side, their view here, they can also, you can tell them how to get to the show summaries. They would also click the three dots, and they would click show summary, and they would have access to all of that information.
Great. So you can make that pretty extensive if you need. But yeah, I think that would be kind of like making sure that they know to click on the three dots and then show summary, right? That would be the big one there. All right. So again, I wish we could answer 1,000 more questions. We've covered like random things today, but I knew we were going to cover different things. We would get different tips and tricks from not only I'm seeing the conversation about questions, and I'm seeing that you guys even answer your own questions. So giving each other like tips and tricks. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much for being so engaged with each other. I think that's why we have a big community. We have thousands and thousands of members in our community, because a community, help each other a lot in TaxDome. And, sometimes I go into the community, and by the way, that community is up at the top of your screen. Let me show you really quick. This is a new feature that was recently added right up here. Hopefully you can see that. So once you click on that community, button, make sure that you allow, because we just moved to it being, connected correctly to your TaxDome account. If you have never used it, just allow the connection to happen and use it by all means. All these questions that you have on here that we, might not have answered, which we will answer every question, by the way, but, jump on here and ask away about anything that we're talking about. we give each other tips. Firms, solve each other's problems because they have similar, bottlenecks that they get through. Please use the community to get answers on some things that maybe only your colleagues will give you more information on. We'll always show you the basics of how to use the software, some additional features. But sometimes when I look at the community, I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you could do that in TaxDome, because you guys are the superstars here and you utilize TaxDome to its max potential. And its max potential is like, you know, I'm in awe of sometimes how clients use TaxDome. It can be very complex and very easily implementing new the client experience easier and making your experience as a firm uh, much more you know easier, much easier to deal with than other softwares, right? um, you might think TaxDome is complicated again, but it's really easy to use once you understand the little widgets, the little settings that you need to do. And again, we're always going to be here to support you. So thank you so much for joining today. We're about to end this webinar. Again, I wish we could extend it,